Hey, what is up, guys? My name is Guillaume. Welcome to Thoman's Guitars and Basses, and today I have the chance to interview one of my personal idols, Mr. Devin Townsend. His new record, Lightwork, is coming out. Here is our interview. Enjoy. That mug is epic.
Well, oh, I'm a twat? Yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
Oh, God.
My mom got it for me, which is great.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's some motherly love right there.
Oh, yeah, man.
Okay, how are you feeling? How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I feel like summer never ends now, which is frustrating, but it will. The chaos of the world seems to be expanding at an ever increasing rate, but I'm okay. And I think that once I get all these little odds and ends tied up with the studio, I'll be able to establish a routine for myself and I'll be really good. But until such time, you got to just keep working, right? And that's what I'm doing.
Is that also part of your recalibration process?
Well, it was almost the fundamental part of it. It's my recalibration. We moved and I had to build a studio. And so for 20 years, I've been in a place that I had my studio set up and I could sort of rely on that. You know, like in the morning, I'd drink my coffee and I'd start doing my work and then I write. But the last year, I haven't had that. It's just been building, and going to flooring centers and learning how to, put tongue and groove on the wall and all these things and painting and then fixing. And then amidst that, I've been trying to keep the career or the work active. And it's a lot, man.
It's a lot.
But soon. And then soon, once I get a routine again, I can't wait, man.
That's super exciting. It's I completely get the tying the loose ends part and just establishing yourself into a new thing, and because I don't know, I'm kind of jumping straight into Lightwork as well, and I mean, at least what I've heard of it, and the contrast between puzzles and Lightwork is it's pretty intense. It's really intense, and I know that as a big fan of yours, by the way, super starstruck right now. Those are reflections of your state of mind in that particular moment in time, in regards to the general situation of the world.
You know what's so interesting about the differences between those two, because puzzle and Lightwork are like other sides of the galaxy from each other, but that's inevitable. And it's interesting that sometimes some people find the fact that they are so different to be confusing. And it's easy for me to explain just based on the energy that I put into everything I do is just so full on that when I'm finished that project, I don't want anything to do with it. You know, I'm like, oh, fuck, I am done with that. And so when I start writing again, almost inevitably, it goes to the opposite. So if it's something I did that was chaotic and abstract, like puzzle, then it seems by my track record logical that the next thing I would do would be simple and chill, right? It's like, and that's kind of what happened. There's a couple of things on Lightwork that are abstract for sure, but the overall aesthetic is still the same. It's pretty chill, man. And I think that it's also important for me to point out that was something that I really consciously tried to achieve. Like after the past couple of years, I didn't want my output to be just more chaos.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you turn on the news or you look on social media, it's just everything's exploding all the time. So I really consciously put effort into making something that was like kind of chill, man. And it's like when you hear the record, there's a couple of songs on there that are really heavy, specifically emotionally. Like Lightworker is really heavy, I think, the song. But all things considered, I'm pretty psyched that it ended up being kind of chill, because all signs pointed to it being the opposite for many months.
Yeah, yeah, there was. Well, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you embrace that as well, and that's a conscious decision to do it, because yeah, as you said, there was like a whole lot of rage into like recently released music, like rage, and not necessarily anger, but just excitement as well, and that turns into, you know, very aggressive music and people coming back
Totally.
to on stage. And so yeah,
Totally.
it's really cool. I was surprised by the music that I've heard, but I wasn't surprised by like the direction
Yeah.
that it was taking. It was very you. So
And the next thing will be different. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
I think that's the thing that most of the audience, I think, is pretty aware of. Is maybe they don't know what they're going to expect, but I think that the one consistent between albums, for me, in my opinion, is the fact that I care about them. Like, I did them because that's what I really felt like doing. It's like I really wanted to do that, and I spend so much time prior to the release of a record almost apologizing for it. And I think it's a part of that is probably just insecurity or being Canadian or something. But because I never write things that are different than the last record under the assumption that I'm trying to be provocative. I'm trying to shock people. It's never that. In fact, oftentimes it would be nice if it was a little more consistent, because then I would be able to say, oh, it's another record. It sounds like this was
that'd be
released on
much
that.
easier for you to, yeah, go up
It
to a
would.
record label and be like, hey, here's more of the things that work.
That's exactly it. And I think that's why it's problematic for like the labels and problematic for some of the audience. But it's only problematic for me because I feel like I need to make a fairly comprehensive explanation prior to every record. You know.
I feel, yeah, okay. I understand. I guess for someone who's been following you for at least a few years now, that's not going to come as a surprise, and we know that we don't
Yeah.
know what to expect either. But
No.
I'm thinking about a younger audience and people and kids that are going to discover Devin Townsend through Lightwork. And then they're going to go on shuffle in Spotify or something. What is that? And
I
what
know,
is
man.
that?
I mean, uh, yeah, it's all right, man. I think it's like, I think if there's anything that because I certainly don't have an agenda, but if anybody said, is there something that you would like your work to represent? I would say maybe it's just about not being afraid to feel what you feel, because a lot of times it's discouraged, right? Like if you're angry or if you're sad or if you're feeling stupid or silly or romantic, it's not encouraged to like change lanes. You have to stay in the lane that you've been assigned, right? But my hope is that if some of these new people that would hear it through Lightwork would go back and hear the stuff, maybe that would help inspire something of their own musically. Maybe they, as musicians, would be able to say, oh, it's cool to do a lot of different things, or not even cool, but just why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And I mean, when people in the past, people used to say, well, the fact that you do a song like Shitstorm and then do an album like Snuggles is an indicator that maybe you're unbalanced. But I would argue that maybe it's the opposite to some degree, because I mean, these are just things that you feel. Like sometimes you feel angry, and sometimes you feel romantic, sometimes you feel sad, like it's and good, whatever. And I think that maybe in the past I was guilty of actualizing things that maybe I didn't need to. Maybe it was based on some sort of motivation that I've grown out of. But the point still remains in that it's just about, that's what humans do. We're not one-dimensional things, right?
Absolutely, and I mean, it's such a beautiful and inspiring way to stay true to yourself as well, and just not fall into, you know, making an average record because you're supposed to make a record in that particular direction or something.
You know, it's funny though, when you say about staying true to yourself, it makes me feel like I'm being complimented in ways that I don't deserve, only because I don't choose to do this, right? Like
Yeah, no, it's your calling.
I just pick up my guitar and then things are there. And I think, oh, okay, well, that needs to be like this. This needs to be like Def Leppard. This needs to be like Morbid Angel. This needs to be like ambient. This needs to be like Johnny Cash, whatever. And it's like, because everywhere around me is guitars, like I just have guitars around me. And so I'm always playing, and then I always just record my ideas on my phone and just remember them. And so writing constantly has been great for me.
That's awesome, and yeah, it was 100% a compliment, by the way.
Awesome.
It really was one.
Thank
Because like, even though it comes to you and it's not like a deliberate act of trying to actively just try to change, to shake things up and shock people by making a completely different record from the last. It does take, it takes a lot to just say, okay, then that needs to be that.
I'll agree with that. I will agree with that. And in fact, a certain amount of my process every time is making peace with what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'll be writing, like with Lightwork. Every time I tried to do something other than what Lightwork wanted to be, it's like my mind just doesn't allow it, in a sense. So I have to follow it where it wants to go. But the whole process, I'm like, oh shit, oh my God, this is going to be difficult. Oh, this is going to be like, people are not going to like it, and all this kind of internal dialogue that I think a lot of artists share, right? Like that sort of sense of, is this right? Is this career suicide? Is this, you know, am I just being selfish, or all that process? But it kind of happens on the side while I'm working. So I know what I have to do, and I just keep working. But the whole time there's like this little weird dialogue going on in the background about how it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, right?
Yeah, but to some extent, I think that dialogue also allows you to, at some point in your career, just be like, okay, I have 120 songs and I'm going to make 4 records to represent 4 different things, because those belong together and those belong together.
Totally.
And yeah, it's...
Totally. And I think that's it keeps it really creatively interesting for me. Like, I really enjoy being able to bounce between things, in the same way as my listening habits, right? Like I'll listen to Django Reinhardt, and then Tycho, and then Clutch, and then old Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and then Stravinsky, or Leonard Bernstein, or you know, and that's what a day is like. It's mood dependent, and so writing for me is very similar, and it's actually a huge part of making music for me is listening to it. And so when I'm in the studio and I press play and I hear what I'm working on, there's really that experience of listening to music.
Yeah.
And that's really where the part of my mind that's a fan of music comes in handy, because I'll be sitting there going, oh, this is great. As a fan, I really like this. That bothers me, though. And so then it becomes this reductive process of identifying the things that are bugging you, and then refining it so when you press play, nothing kind of breaks that fourth wall. At which point, I think that's almost the indicator for me that you can move on. It's like, okay, this one's all right now.
Yeah. How much of an impact do you think that has had on your writing process in itself? Like
the listening habits that I have?
Yeah, because again, like the difference in between even just your last two albums is so drastic that I gotta think, okay, well, during that period of time, it was probably listening to Mike Patton a lot, and during this one, probably not, and you know, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I think that the process of writing for me is not an intellectual one. It's a byproduct of the activities that I'm engaged in at any particular time. So for example, I've been building the studio and trying to get everything together amidst all the chaos. And then during that period, like I wake up and start putting in drywall or floors, and then I always have music playing. And what I usually do with that is I'll be on Spotify, and I just every morning there's like album recommendations, and I just skip through them until the first song of one of them doesn't irritate me, and then I just let it play. And then sometimes it'll play over and over and over again if I like it, but then I forget about it, right? And the algorithms in Spotify, my algorithms are typically pretty consistent. It's like ambient music, sort of synth wave type stuff, very rarely any vocals, unless it's a different language. Like I really like Thomann, that band from the Middle East. I thought that was really beautiful. And Juana Molina as well, some of her older stuff. It's Argentinian, and I'm okay with vocals as long as I don't hear lyrics right now. And that's not a consistent thing, but I've just had so much to deal with, as we all have, that I just don't have interest in what other people are saying a lot of times.
Fair enough.
You know? So I tend to choose music that I don't understand the lyrics, so I can hear a human, but it's not something that's going to be distracting.
I've never heard that before, but I love it. This is awesome.
Well, sometimes you'll hear music where it's just like the content of the lyrics is just like, even though the music's good, I'm just like, oh God, I don't care, right? And that's so as a result of those listening habits, I just work, and then I deal with life, and I deal with family and kids and health and all the things that I need to deal with as a human being in 2022. And then when I pick up the guitar, there's stuff there, and it's not an intellectual process. I'm not like I'm sitting down to write now. I'm sitting down to compose or something. I have guitars around, and I just start, I just start doing my thing. And then after a year, I've got a bunch of songs, and then I say, okay, well, what does this year remind me of? And then I start working with the artist. I'm like, I think it has something to do with like an octopus and the color aquamarine, and something to do with a nautical theme, and something that's got, but I don't know what it is. It's just, these are things that are like interesting to me. And then at the end, it all kind of comes together. I was like, oh, there's the vibe, and there's the color, and there's the font, and there's the songs. And then there's the theme, right? And then the next year is something different.
That's awesome. And that's obviously linked as well to the fact that when you said Aquamarine for the record, it's because of the tonality of it, because of the vibe and the
Totally.
general mood. And
Yeah.
I really love the artwork. I really love what I've seen of Lightwork so far.
Yeah, Travis is such a great artist, and he's so great for me to work with because he's tolerant of my process, right? He puzzle too, and I thought puzzle was maybe my favorite thing that he's done, right? Between that and Lightwork, I really feel like he's really risen to the occasion, man.
That's awesome. In terms of production for the album, again, my experience is kind of limited. I've had 2 songs so far, like everybody else, but it feels like not a departure, but a lot of people have grown used to a wall of sound type of thing, and just a whole lot. And there is a lot in, whether it's Moon People or Call of the Void, there's a lot in the background, in ambiances to just pick up on. But it feels a lot more airy as well.
Yeah, I think because I worked with Garth Richardson on this one, and he really helped. And one of the ways that he helped was arrangement wise. He said, you know, why don't you try and like make this here the chorus, and then it's just his between his influence and what the music seemed to require, there was a lot more space on this one. But when you hear the record, you'll see that there's a bunch of songs where it's
I'm
it's
so
a wall of
excited.
sound, but it's a smaller wall.
A smaller wall. Okay. How about guitars then? Because again, from what I've heard, it doesn't seem to guitar forward kind of an album.
No, there's a few that are guitar forward, but I go in and out of phases with guitar. I love guitar and I write everything on my guitar,
Yeah.
but I'm not like I'm not a player in the sense where it needs to be a focus in the same way as a singer. I'm not a singer in the way that I am bothered if the voice is not a focus. It's just what the song seems to need. I just do, and that's it. There's no. So I very rarely never listen back to a song and say, "Oh, there's not enough guitar there." I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
there's enough guitar." Sure, of course. Maybe there's too much. Who knows? It's like if it needs more guitar, I'll add it, and if it doesn't, I won't. Right.
Yeah. It's just what
Um,
the song needs.
but I've been working with Framus for many years, and I've got a model that I designed with him called the Stormbender, which is in Europe right now, but it's perfect for the heavy stuff for me. But also on this album, I used an Aristides Telly that they made for me, which is beautiful, and a Kiesel guitar. We've been working on like a tiny little ambient guitar, and they've been sending me prototypes of that, and that's been great too. And then for acoustics, I work with Prestige guitars, right? But you know, it's whatever suits the bill. But I've got the pickups that I designed with Fishman that I have in basically all of them. I use Evertune in the studio always. Maybe if I'm doing a solo thing or if I'm doing something else that requires a different feel, I might use a guitar without an Evertune, but I have to look for one because I put them on everything. But like this guitar, for example, which is the one of the guitars I use on the record, is amazingly chunky guitar, and it was covered in dust because of the drywall this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't tuned it since I recorded, which is months and months ago. But I picked it up and it's still in tune. So it's like
right there.
it's amazing. And I feel that for my work, being in tune without having to be hyper vigilant about making sure it's in tune is one of the greatest gifts that a gear company has provided, right?
It's another level of peace of mind, I assume.
I agree,
yeah.
100%.
I'm gonna try and wrap it up quick because I know you've been super consistent with your gear and with the companies that you've been working with, but hearing some of the ambiances on the first two singles, I'm wondering if you've been since then like trying to experiment with new things, maybe digital and little pads and little.
Yeah, always. So I've got my studio set up with two systems for writing. The main one is Fractal. And it's because Fractal is just this workhorse, comprehensive, incredibly powerful amp and effect modeling system that I have got all my cab sims on, got all my sounds. I tour with it. I use it live. Love it. But what I use for writing a lot of times too is the Helix, the Line 6 Helix. I've worked with Line 6 for a while now, but the Helix is a super comprehensive tool for me to create ambience. It's much more of that's what I use for ambient music is the Helix, and I use the Fractal for guitar sounds.
That's crazy. Okay.
And I've got a million pedals. Well, not a million, but maybe 100. But other than special effects like the Rainbow Machine by Earthquaker, or I got this little thing called the Bebo that was kind of interesting, but I don't really use pedals. I just I've got one cable in my studio that goes to everything. It goes to the fractal, it goes to the Kemper, it goes to the Helix, bass, rig, and I just have my presets on my Pro Tool session set up so that they're auto engaged when I hit that track. So bass is always going to be bass with the same cable. Fractal is always going to be fractal with the same cable. And I got the inputs on my IO listed: bass, Xfx, Helix, Xfx2, Kemper.
Well, just efficiency. You don't want anything else, anything more than what's absolutely necessary between you and the song, and just like making it happen.
100%. I got 2 minutes. Did you want me to play something before we went, or?
Yeah, that'd be sick. Are you? Yeah, if.
So there's 2 riffs on the record that I'll do for you here. The first one here, I guess, is the.
Oh yeah, we need the lights on.
Oh yeah, lights are on. Yeah. There's a song called. There's not really a lot of riffs on the record. There's a song called Equinox, which is just. That's the whole riff. Yeah. That's a riff. And then another one I'll give you is from a song called Heartbreaker, which almost didn't make it on the record. But because when I came off a tour, they were asking me, they said that we couldn't get the rights for one of the songs. So I had to add another one. And it's a pain in the ass, but it was like a... Yeah. That's it. I haven't played in months, so there's that. But those are some riffs for you there. I've got to go for the next interview. I'm so sorry, brother.
No, of course. Thank you so much for your time. It was awesome. Congratulations on the record, and I'm super looking forward to seeing you on tour next year.
Thank you, my friend. I'll see you soon, okay?
Take care. Thanks, Devin.
Bye-bye.